Hi, it's Jesse with the Jaunty Mantis, and we're going to do another one of these oral history things, but this time the tables have turned
Bum bum bum.
because I got turned because Chris is going to interview me. So without further ado, the Jaunty Mantis, a podcast of creative questions for curious gamers. I guess this is more ado. If you like this, if you want to come on, do an interview, if you're interested in telling your story, drop us an email at jauntymantis@gmail.com or let us know in the YouTube comment below, and we will try to be in touch. Take it away, Chris.
So it's your turn to tell me a little bit about where and how you grew up.
Sure. My name is Jesse Sauer, and I grew up in Irvington, a neighborhood in Indianapolis, Indiana. That was like, in my mind, about the best place you could be a kid, and probably would be until I got to be like a middle schooler and saw The Adventures of Pete and Pete and saw that like place in New Jersey where they lived. And I was like, oh my God, it's always fall there. The leaves are so pretty. But yeah, Irvington was like a kind of slightly crumbling Victorian houses. The neighborhood was named Irvington after John Irving because when it was built, is it John, the guy who wrote Sleepy Hollow?
Probably.
Okay, yeah,
There's no way to know.
when the neighborhood was built, like it so resembled Sleepy Hollow, they named it after the author, and it was like a lot of the back streets, like with these crumbling kind of Victorian houses, were still brick when I was a kid. There were alleys between everywhere. It was you could like run around in the summer. They had a huge Main Street parade every Halloween, and you'd get to paint windows. It was just like a pretty great place.
This is already explaining so much about you,
Yeah, I
for
had a
me at
fairly
least.
I had an idyllic early childhood.
With the cool fall spooky touch of a Sleepy Hollow inspirational area. Love
When
it.
you grow up in a slightly crumbling Victorian house, you're going to be kind of gothy when you get older.
We love it. So, when did you first become aware of games or other forms of imaginative play?
I mean, I can't remember when I first became aware of imaginative play because, like, I was waging battles and wars, like as long as like back to like the age of 4. I had this uncle, his name's Robert. I love this man dearly. And he was in the Air Force, but he was also like studying a master's in like Old English, and he would like come over to babysit me and like read me his translations of Beowulf. And
Amazing.
so much about me is being explained right now. And like he wrote stories for me. I still have them about Sir Jesse the Bold and his sword Troll Slayer. And he would like diagram like the Battle of Hastings and be like, so here were the archers on the hill and explain it to me. And I just ate it up. So fantasy imagination is like some of my earliest memories. But I think when I first became aware of like fantasy role play and D&D would have been like in 5th grade. And I've told this story on the podcast before when this kid, Adam, had I think Deities and Demigods first edition and was
Oh,
like
wow.
looking through it and was like, I was like, what is this? And he's like, oh, it's a book from a game I play with my cool older teenage brother. Like, do you want to come over and have a sleepover and play with us? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I went over for a sleepover. And of course, his like 15-year-old brother was not in the house and didn't want to play with us. So we muddled through and did not sleep and tried to play, having no idea of what the rules were. And I was hooked for
Yeah, those
apparently until now, the rest of my life.
those early attempts to figure out the games, I feel like, are fun and exciting first steps. I think a lot of people shared. I hope.
Yeah, my first set I got was Redbox Basic Expert, and I did the solo play thing in there to learn the rules, and I still hate Borgle the Wizard. Um, I just hate that dude. So
Outside of all that, as a youth, what other interests and hobbies did you have that?
apparently, like reenacting, like we had a lot of like inter-neighborhood sword fights. Everybody's dad made them a sword and a spear and a shield. Um, and I did calligraphy. I loved reading. I was super into Legos, castle Legos at the time. I did cross stitch for a while.
Okay.
Spent a lot of time with my mom, who is very crafty, and so I did a lot of crafting stuff with her. So the miniatures are probably her fault.
Did any of those experiences or any of the people, like perhaps your uncle, influence how you think about or tell stories?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I go back to the old tropes of like fantasy and like historic epics. When I like that is just kind of how I structure a story. I think I actually think you've heard me tell stories and I'm doing it now. Like I provide way more context than is necessary. So I think that actually might be like if you've ever read Beowulf or like a non-Lord of the Rings Tolkien book where it's go like, and then in those days, lo, did he walk for 5 miles and saw 10 birds. I'm like, I wonder if that's what that is. That could be an influence. So yeah, definitely, definitely. I don't think family has shaped it. Community, not so much. Modern
Yeah.
American culture, I don't really know if that has any holds on the way I think about narrative, but
So then you did the solo adventure to learn the game, but then who were the first people you played with? What was that situation?
some other friends from school who lived in the neighborhood.
The fellow inmates, yes.
Yes. So yeah, Josh and Aaron, and I still play in a game with Aaron now. Aaron is in my Sunday night now. I played my first D&D with this kid when we were in
That's
fifth grade.
awesome.
Like, yeah. So yeah, just some neighborhood kids that I was already friends with at school. And we
And
were
were
too,
you,
it was nice. We were too young. Like it was pre-middle school, so we weren't yet like outed as the super nerdy kids. There was like
yeah,
no external pressure. It was just everybody was doing their own weird little thing. So I think that might be why I'm really confident about my hobby is because I was already well ensconced to it by the time everybody became like a psychopathic monster a couple years later in seventh grade.
before the shaming and
Yeah.
humiliations began?
Yeah.
That's lovely. So were you running the games back then, or were you the player? Or did you all take turns?
We traded off, and I mean, most of them like very loose idea of the rules. A lot of like just like Aaron would try and recreate whatever Ultima game he was playing because he had an Apple IIe at home, the only one of
Yeah.
us with a personal computer. So he'd be like, and then you meet Lord British, and I'm like, that's a dumb name, but and
He
I'd
came
run
by it
things
honestly.
where everybody finds a suit of +5 plate mail and a ring that turns you into an ancient dragon, and you meet a beautiful nymph, and she'll agree to be your girlfriend. Fifth grade, I didn't know what that meant. So, like,
Yeah. The wish fulfillment is like real direct at that age, I suspect.
mhm.
So moving on into what middle school and high school years, what did that transition in gaming look like?
Um, my interest in what games that I could at least read, if not play, grew. The TSR line that was coming out of the time as I transitioned into like those ages around the time that like Dark Sun came out. So I got super into Dark Sun, and we did a lot with a Ravenloft without really understanding how to tell a horror game because we were like 11, like so everything was like I think from the passage like there's some advice on presenting monsters at the beginning of the Ravenloft monster manual, which for the kids today, if you're listening, thank you. And they were basically like a bundle of pre-punched loose paper. And if you had the first monster manual, it was a giant binder. So you would have to clip them open and put your pages in. And if you looked at them obsessively, like almost every D&D player did, they would
Mm-hmm.
immediately rip. So like your best gaming accessory was those little sticker things you put around the holes punched in a page
Yeah.
from tearing. But there was a section in the Ravenloft book that was like, describe the details. Never say the name of the monster. Like, as you cross the bridge, a mist rises. And so we would steal that passage almost verbatim and then be like, oh no, we're going to Ravenloft. Don't cross the bridge.
It's happening. You can't resist the mist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, what kind of stories were you telling within those confines around those ages, or what kinds were you participating in?
I mean, like, I don't know that there was really any character development other than it was just solving a puzzle and roll dice. It wouldn't be until I was like 15 or 16 that I started, I think, actually role playing. It was more
Hmm.
about just like making a character and the stats and figuring things out. I also had a MERP phase, but it was just arena battles, like with the little
Yeah.
cardboard standees and making characters. Um, yeah, like I don't even think we were really telling stories other than wish fulfillment. But it was fun. It was
Yeah.
so fun.
What stands out from that first like actually role playing experience? What do you remember?
I think so. The progress of that is when I want to say 12, I flew by myself for the first time to visit my cousins in Omaha. And one of them was like a year older than me, and the other one was like 3 years younger than me, like my sister's age. And so I went to go meet these kids. I had met them 3 or 4 times, but like my aunt, my mom's sister, they're very close. And they're like, oh, these
Hmm.
kids seem like they might be interested. And I showed up and they're like, you want to play Shadowrun with us? I'm like, what Shadowrun? And then I learned what Shadowrun was. And I think at some point someone cast a hell blast into a Lone Star station. So, fuck the police. Um, but they took me to a game store. And I don't know why I had never noticed it at home because, like, imagine the irony of picking up the new hip game at a game store in Omaha, Nebraska. There was this giant orange book that had claw marks in the cardboard cover revealing the swirly green inside. And I picked it up and it was Werewolf the Apocalypse first edition.
Oh yeah.
And I flipped through it and I was just like, this art is amazing. Oh my God, you get to be a werewolf? This is so cool. And so I bought it and I took it home and I never actually ran a werewolf game. But through Werewolf, I learned about vampire. And then by the time I was 15, I went to my first vampire LARP. And that's the point at which I think a switch flipped in my brain to be like, okay, the rules are cool and they help us tell the story, but oh my God, I get to be another person.
Yeah.
I was also getting into theater a lot at school at that time, so there was a natural intersection.
That's a perfect confluence of influences.
Nerd for life.
uh, any other formative or memorable moments from that era or immediately after, especially ones that were difficult or tense, perhaps?
I mean, awkward, like being
Even better.
goth. But yeah, by the time I was like 16, like there were like two goth girls at my school. And of course, I wound up dating both of them at different times. And this one really cool goth girl that somehow dated me, I was like, you want to come to a vampire LARP with me? And then she was like, yeah, sure. I'll try it. And then she came and she was like looking around, like, oh my God, who are these people? I'm like, all right, we're the followers of Set. Okay. We use corruption to influence people. And like, suddenly I'm like, I'm going to use you as like basically an extra thing on my character sheet. And so you need to be seductive. And I'm like, oh my
Oh,
God,
no.
no. Oh boy. I'm sorry, Tracy. I'm so sorry. I know you'll never hear this, but I have so many regrets, and that's one of them.
But hey, a growth moment, and we love those.
Don't use people as extensions of your character sheet. They're people with
Yeah,
agency, and they
hopefully.
won't ever kiss you again if you make them go to a vampire lark.
Oh, wow. So, any other fascinating moments, things that stuck with you from
Um,
those early days?
through the end of the high school, we would predominantly like we were getting into Warhammer for war gaming, but mostly with my friend group who were those same guys and I'm still friends with today. We were playing a lot of GoldenEye and
Hmm.
less games. When we did play, it was the occasional AD&D 2E, like little one shots or two shots, and then some Shadowrun attempts that never really took off. There were obviously a lot of other pressures like girls and things that were taken over. But through the end of high school, I stayed pretty active in the vampire LARP.
Yeah. So, what about the college era? I know you didn't stop gaming.
Yeah, which college era? The unsuccessful college era, I continued attending two different vampire LARPs on my college campus. And that's also when I was in a little Shadowrun campaign. I first played West End Star Wars in college,
Hell yeah.
like when like sophomore year. So this is 1999. The game had already been out for a while, but I had a good friend named Joe, who ran a really awesome Star Wars game. But that kicked off. I played in two sessions, and then I flunked out of college because I was playing a lot of Fallout 2 and drinking and going to vampire LARPs instead of going to classes. So, uh, and then things got serious for a while. I moved back home. I was working for a while. 3.5 came out. I got invited to go back up to Muncie once every 2 weeks, where college was, and play in a 3.5 game that was based
Yeah.
on Wheel of Time.
Oh wow.
But I wasn't really buying a lot of books at that
It
time,
was
or
the fashion of the time.
I had never read Wheel of Time either. So like
It's
I
for
was
the
just like,
mess.
I'm playing normal D&D, and they're like, this guy is basically Rand. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I'm a neutral evil bard.
They didn't get into elaborate, in-depth discussions of how this magic system was different
Yeah. Yeah. Again, regrets,
because
Craig.
it's
I'm sorry I got
sexist.
your character killed. Yeah, Sidene is stored in the balls, as I learned from Twitter.
R.I.P. Twitter. Okay, so uh, what was your next, would you say, era of gaming after that?
So after I moved home, I saved money and I wound up moving to Chicago. And when I first moved to Chicago, I fell in with a rough crowd of hipsters and got a Vespa scooter and joined a scooter gang.
Mm,
And didn't really play, but after a while, I was working at a bookstore, and they had a pretty deep discount for employees at Borders Books and Music, the flagship store on Michigan Avenue. And that was around the time that like the vampire revised stuff started coming out, which like just looked super cool. So I started buying like every vampire book. So this is like the second collection, the vampire books, and I ran vampire for a new group of people. It didn't really coalesce. Like it was a friend group through my girlfriend. It didn't really coalesce into a solid gaming group. We played a
yeah,
couple of sessions, but I just poured through all the meta plot of the World of Darkness. And
you
yeah,
absorbed all that for later use, I assume. What
yes,
was your
for later
next
use.
like steady gaming then from that? When did you next get a group that stood the test of any amount of time?
I wound up like being like at the point where I had to move or something, and I didn't want to move all the books, and I needed money for a security deposit. So I sold off all my vampire and White Wolf stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
then this is around the time that I met my wife, and was living with some really cool guys on the north side of Chicago. And I got back in college, and I was in this class with this dude named Mike. And Mike and I were just talking. I was like, "Oh yeah, I like D&D. Like, it's fun. I've played before." It's just like, "Oh, well, I'm in a D&D group. Let me ask the guy if you can join because you seem cool." I'm like, "Okay, cool." He's like, "I'll talk to my friend Maddie." And I'm like, "All right, cool, go do." And then
Dun,
he
dun, dun.
did. And then I went to Maddie's house and played an aggressive lizard man who wanted some ham. And Maddie and I have been best friends ever since we started this podcast. Maddie moved in together. We had a cool Chicago apartment. We started going crazy on 3.5 and greater, open gaming license, D20 books. We had a cool fireplace in our living room that had built-in bookshelves on both sides of it, and they were literally filled with like the entire 3.5 line by the time we moved out. So that was the next collection.
Yeah. So did that gaming lead into just all your groups probably shared some DNA for a while? I mean, were there any major epochs between then and now in your
That art school
role playing?
college group, like that was my solid gaming group for like 7 years. Um, and I regrettably don't get to play with any of them except Maddie on Sunday nights every once in a while. But yeah, I miss those guys. So Mike, wherever you are, I miss you. He's in Seattle. I miss him.
Yeah.
Jem, if you ever listen to the podcast, I miss you. I hope you're doing well. He's also out in the Pacific Northwest. And yeah, Meredith, hope you're well. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really in touch with them for no good reason, just time.
Yeah. Well, I know you lived in China for a little while, and then you came to Oklahoma of all places.
I lived in
What did
China
it?
during 4E.
Yeah. Did you play any for Ian?
I did. I
Yeah.
did. I had full on pirated books that I would like then take to the print shop in China and have them print and like bind with thread. And so I had these like Chinese bound classical tomes of 4E books. And I tried to run a 4E Dark Sun game online with the old group from back home, but it
Yep.
required getting up at 6 a.m. on a Sunday
Oh,
and using the internet of 2007 to try and Skype call across international distances.
a
Uh,
struggle.
I had my UN of Gaming group with my friend Zoli from Hungary and my friend Tom from Australia and Paul from England and Sonny and Mark who were Chinese and Carrie. Um, still played Warhammer, bought everything off Alibaba, like in
Yeah.
it. Which, by the
Did
way, if you see the English translation of Necron Overlord from Chinese back into English, auto translated, it's Space Skeleton Not Dead Landlord, which is the most delightful thing in the 40K universe.
I mean, not wrong, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, that experience of gaming with expats and trying to do online gaming and just being in a different culture, did that you feel like influence you going forward as it relates to these kind of activities?
I think teaching the game to people who had never played before, who don't necessarily have a strong, I mean, in 2007, was there really a strong pop cultural idea in the US of what the game was? I'd say
Still
probably
no.
no.
Yeah. Barely
Um,
now, really. Stranger Things, thank you.
but being a professional teacher and also teaching the game, because I also played Exalted with that same group. So I taught Exalted
Hmm.
to people who did not speak the only language I could speak as a first language and didn't have a cultural background of, tabletop role playing. Got me really precise about which rules are important and what's the order you need to teach things in.
You have to
But
lock in for sure on the details.
I would love to get any of those people on to do an episode like this because one of the things I noticed is a lot of the cultural tropes of gaming culture. My Australian friend had played before and had a very similar, I think, cultural gaming
Hmm.
culture experience. Paul, same thing. Even Zoli was mostly similar, and he was playing like pirated books in a socialist country, as he phrases
Yeah,
it. Like,
but still
before the fall of
exposed to
the
the
Iron Curtain. But like, yeah.
English, Western European fantasy
Mm-hmm.
ideas
Mm-hmm.
and historical tropes. Yeah, we communicate so much in shorthand that you probably don't notice until you run into people that don't share that,
Well, part of the idea for
essentially.
doing episodes like this was I wanted a reason to talk to Zoli again. So
Heck
like
yeah.
I'm in talks to work out a time to get Zoli on. Be like,
Cool.
tell me about growing up in gaming in Hungary, like
Yeah,
in the 90s.
that would
Like
be awesome.
I know.
All right. So then you found yourself out here in Oklahoma. What did it take to maintain or get your gaming going once you got out here?
So at pretty much every huge phase change of my life, high school into college, dropping out of college into moving to Chicago, moving to a different neighborhood in Chicago, I had been like, okay, this is like, I can sell these things. Like, I'm done with this. I'm going to just, I'm going to be a cool guy. And every time I came back in, so I didn't really have a collection to bring back with me from China, which is good
Hmm.
because it would have been incredibly expensive. But as we were heading out of Asia, we took like a month long trip heading down relatable content. We took a month long trip heading down the coast of Vietnam. And from in like the cafe and the lobby of a hostel in Ho Chi Minh City, I found out about meetup.com and started searching for Meetup
Yeah,
for RPGs in Oklahoma City. And sure enough, there was a meetup that was posting looking for a player. They were playing Exalted, second edition.
perfect.
And I was like, this is like my favorite setting, like of all time. So I petitioned to join from Ho Chi Minh City and they said yes. And I met the guys that I like the guy who became my first like Oklahoma best friend and the guys that I played with until everybody started having kids. So good,
Yeah.
like good 6, 7 years.
Amazing. So, I mean, all that must have had a dramatic impact on you. What is there anything that stands out on as far as how it's influenced you? The various games, the people, the places.
I mean, it's just like it's the threads of my life. I've gone on ill-advised rants before, but like some people go to church, I play a TTRPG. Like this is that human desire to seek community. Like this is the community where I know the lingo, I know the ritual. It's where I'm comfortable. It's the commonality I have with so many other people. It's that shorthand for making a connection. Like someone else tells me they play D&D, we've got stuff to talk about for hours.
Absolutely.
And I'm using D&D as a genre in this case and not
Mm-hmm.
particularly the game Dungeons and Dragons. So yeah, I mean, like that's just like it's my people and it's
Yeah.
my path to my people.
If it hasn't been said here before, I don't think there's anything more natural to our species, humanity, than telling tales together, telling
Yeah,
stories.
yeah, and we do it in a way that is infused with ritual. And like, everybody that plays knows what it's like when it's a tense moment and somebody rolls a nat 20 or a nat 1. Like the reaction is the same among like pretty much every gaming group. Like we have
Mm-hmm.
a shared culture and I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of it.
So, all that said, were there ever times where you weren't happy to be with it? Times where you felt excluded or glossed over or didn't quite fit in?
Um, I've had incredibly awkward experiences like at a gaming table. Oh, no, no, there was one. And I think it was just a misread of the situation. Because I used to play down in Norman with two Norman folks.
Mm-hmm.
That one of them was an older guy who had been like basically running a superheroes game using Hero System in the same campaign world he created for like 20 years.
Wow.
He had 20 years of notes and history. And so I went with one of my guys from that group I met on Meetup, and we started playing Hero with him. And it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like he wrote in a whole plot arc of my character finding love. And I was like, oh, this is beautiful. And there was an episode where my character was like a werewolf superhero. Like he got stuck in a black and white Lassie knockoff with a laugh track by a supervillain, and we had to role play through that. And it was
Whoa.
one of my favorite things I've ever done at the table.
Yeah.
But we went to play in their Pathfinder game, and so like thinking of what we're gonna expect on the drive down there, me and my buddy Corey just came up with this cool.
Expectations are high.
I know. We're like, whoa, well, his hero game's going to be it was so great. What's he going to do with D&D? So we came up with a really cool linked concept of these two wandering, like a wandering kinku and a wandering mouse person, and like our linked story, and like it was sort of like lone wolf and cub, and like yeah, and we show up, and the enemies are anthropomorphic My Little Ponies, and one of the characters has a bow, a magic bow that does 1d100 damage, and I'm like, oh, this is not the vibe.
Wow.
And it's just, I mean, it was just a lack of communication. If I knew we were
Yeah.
going into something gonzo, I would have done it. But I was like,
Expectations were
just the
not set
tonal
well.
shift. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh. So yeah, I don't know. I've had people have bad natured freakouts, but it's never been the majority of group, and I'm on the outside. I'm with the other quote unquote normal people looking at the guy narrating like ripping his Warforged's mechanical dick off and spraying oil over the floor of the ship because he's mad at a ruling I made, and with
Uh,
everybody else being like, maybe you're not invited back next time.
yeah. Sounds like something out of a Michael Bay Transformers movie.
Yeah.
So, obviously, this has been an important part of your experience to date. Are there any specific events or any particular aspects of your experience or development that stand out, from all these years of gaming and gaming with different people?
If I think I had to do the highlights, like the getting the red box and the hours spent on the carpet of the back room, flipping through that book, coloring in my own dice, the lonely fun of making merp characters in the little carpet covered space under the stairs that was my dad made for me to hide in. Like my first vampire LARP, meeting Maddie. There was a really cool moment at our Exalted game in that apartment in Chicago where a newer player, like I left an opening for them to like stand up and kick my ass publicly, and they did, and everybody still talks about it. Like,
Amazing.
yeah, Abu Akma and her war elephant.
Some people make their lifelong friends from their softball team or high school teams, and we got it while pretending to be strangers and weird creatures. So
Yeah, fairly recently, my childhood good friend John, uh, they meet the chameleon god of this temple, and he just catches it and bites its head off. And I'm like, as the guy running the game, what do I do with that? That just, yeah,
right,
that sticks out. I mean, so many. Like,
we could go on and on about it. I'm sure
yep.
we'll just backload that for future podcasts, perhaps. So, as far as the culture and its changes over the decades you've been involved, is there anything of note that you've noticed or experienced as far as who's playing or what they're playing?
I just think in general it's gotten like both more inclusive and more tribal, which is kind of a bummer. The
Right.
tribal part is a bummer. The
Yeah.
more people getting to enjoy this thing that is a huge part of me that I love. That's great. I hope they get the same enjoyment. The tribalism, I mean, I know that's also human nature, but
It
like
really is, sadly.
if any people should know better than to pick on people, I feel like it's lifelong nerds. I read
Yep.
some comment on a social media thing the other day that was just like, "Oh yes, well once you see this, your precious dagger heart will be blah blah blah. Once this new starter box come out." I'm just like, "Are, are you think you're the Emperor from Star Wars?"
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just like once you see the power of this fully armed and operational D&D 2024 5e starter
Right.
box.
Whatever. No, I was there for all the fourth edition drama, and role playing games are all far more similar to each other than any other thing in the universe.
The OSR powered by the Apocalypse story game beef is insane because ruling not rules is just fiction first. Like
Right.
it's literally two ways to say
Yeah.
the exact same thing.
But if there's a way to not get along, man, people will find it. Cool. Okay. So that covers, I think, all of our questions, doesn't it? Am I leaving anything out? What advice or thoughts would you share with someone new to this hobby?
Um, come at it from a sense of curiosity. It's the I think a lot of it's the same as the good player advice that you see in Riff's books. Ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Like you're allowed to ask and be curious and ask away to your heart's content. And yeah, give yourself some grace. You're not going to be perfect at it the first time, though. You're there's a very good chance that the person who has the privilege of running the first game for you is going to be amazed at how well you did, because that's been my experience every time I've run someone's first game.
Newbies are my favorite players the vast majority of the time.
They're so good at it. They
Hmm.
don't have any bad habits.
People's natural instincts, though, are often so fun and
I know.
surprising.
I know. Yeah, I think just ask lots of questions, be curious and engaged, and be prepared to accidentally stumble into the hobby that's going to take you through the next 20 years of your life, because you might.
So, when someone inevitably tells the story of your gaming life, who's going to play you in that biopic?
Mm,
And more importantly, what would you want the audience to understand from that film?
who's going to play me? Um, Old ass Gary Oldman.
Hell yeah. I was
Imp-
picturing a Tom Cruise, like really growing a beard out, but
no, Gary Oldman, improbably still disguised as Winston Churchill, but trying to do my voice. Um, it's a weird directorial decision, I know, but trust me, if you can just see it in the context of the whole story, it's going to work. Um, Here's what you need to understand: it is glorious to love not real, deeply impractical things. It is the forge of a good heart to be invested in worlds that aren't real and take what you learn there to make the real one better for other people. And yeah, that's I think That's
Very
that's
well
why
said.
that's why it's like church for me.
Yeah. Thank you. Why don't you close us out?
Well, this has been the John T. Mantis. Any comments, complaints, or massive praise for the excellent job Chris did on running the interview he loves public praise, can be left as a YouTube comment, or you can email us at johntmantis.com. If you enjoy the show, it really helps us out if you could leave us a positive review, 5 stars on wherever you caught the podcast. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, but you don't have to really tell anyone about it. And until next time, make elaborate forged metaphors about your fucking heart or some shit. I don't know. Mantis out.